If I'm standing in the sun and the sun hits me right, there's a shadow here. Now, that shadow is not a perfect representation of who I am, but what it does is it points to something that it is casting a shadow of. And that's when we talk about a shadow. It is not a perfect representation. And when you look up the definition of a shadow, it is a dark figure cast upon a surface by a body intercepting the rays from a source of light. So why does he use the word shadow? And I believe he uses the word shadow is because all throughout the Old Testament, Jesus Christ is concealed. If someone doesn't know Jesus and they read the Old Testament and they hear about the Messiah and all throughout the Old Testament, they cannot see Jesus Christ. And this is what I believe when especially the Apostle Paul, a Pharisee of Pharisees, memorized the first 5 books of Moses, probably memorized other books of the Old Testament, knew the Old Testament backwards and forwards. And before Jesus ever arrested him on the road to Damascus, he thought Jesus Christ was an affront to Moses. So in his zeal, he was trying to do everything he could to get rid of this one known as Jesus or anyone who represents him. But then all of a sudden on the road to Damascus, when his eyes were open, he sat there for 3 days and he was blind. And I believe I know why God did this. Because he believed he could see when he had physical eyes, but he was blinded. Now all of a sudden when his eyes were blinded and he was alone with God and the Holy Spirit began to open his eyes to many things he couldn't see before. And there are many people today who have no idea who Jesus Christ is. There are many people today that they live their lives in darkness. They live their lives in deception. Their lives are simply a outward manifestation of the lies that they're believing. And this is why I truly believe when God looks at any single person, God understands that if that person's eyes are open to who he truly is, and they begin to build their lives on his grace and his truth, the leading and the guidance of the Holy Spirit, God can take someone's life who is totally immersed in darkness, God can pull them out of darkness, and God can glorify his name and his kingdom through that person, because it's not dependent on that individual to do anything for God. All it's dependent is that individual would totally rely on the grace of God and the power of the Holy Spirit. And this is what Jesus said in Luke 24:27. It says, when Jesus is walking on the road to Emmaus with the 2 individuals, it says, and beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Think about that.